Hey everybody, what's going on the Faster Fitness Show today? We're going to talk about, should every workout be intense? What food should you eat every time, sometimes, and rarely? What should you do to grow your butt? Should you lift weights? Do guys and girls, should they train the same or should they train differently? Stay tuned, listen up.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Faster Fitness Show. Today we have a bunch of stuff to talk about. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is, should every single workout be balls to the wall, super intense? Should you always feel like you're dying every single session? And I think this is super important and critical for your success in the gym, wherever it is that you work out. So Frankie, thoughts about intensity in every workout?
Yeah, so I think we're in January, right? Everybody wants to get back on the workout train, which means intense workouts. I think we both fell into this category before, where all our workouts were intense. They were pushing it to the limit every time. And I think that's a big mistake that we make in the fitness industry, is that every workout needs to be, like you said, balls to the wall, that you need to be covered in sweat, that if you're not so sore the next day that you didn't work out hard enough, right? When that's completely false, right? Workout intensity, I kind of break it down, maybe 1-2 workouts a week max, where you're going full intensity, maximal calorie effort, trying to get that burn. Most of your workouts should be moderate to mild intensity, right? I always tell clients, if you're walking in here and you're so sore, like, oh my God, I can't even sit down, I'm struggling for this, we overreached for you, right? We pushed it too hard, we went too hard. If you're the client that walks in and you start warming up, you're like, oh, a little sore in my arms, like from yesterday or from Monday, right? That's the perfect amount of intensity that we want, right? Because if you are so sore every time and you're pushing yourself every single workout, the recovery aspect of it, your body's always reaching to recover, right? Mm-hmm. And the goal is to train, recover, and train, not to train, keep trying to recover, and then keep training more, then try to recover more, and just keep pushing it like that, right? We should have, again, maybe Monday you come in and it's a moderate to mild intensity. Tuesday, again, moderate to mild. Maybe Wednesday you push it a little bit, you take off Thursday, and then we get back into moderate to mild intensity, and then maybe you get a good push Saturday or Sunday, and that is your whole week, right? We want you to be recovered. The purpose is to create adaptation, right? Meaning that we're building muscle, we're burning fat, right? That's always the purpose. But if we're always trying to recover, then we're not succeeding in those other areas too.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with someone earlier this week. Some of the things that you wish you knew in fitness early on, like when somebody just started, and it's knowing that recovery is just as important as these intensity workouts that we're talking about. Rather than everyone coming into the fitness industry or starting their fitness journey, everyone thinks that, hey, I need to go balls to the wall because this is what produces results. This is what's going to make me lose weight. This is what's going to make me build muscle. And that's completely false. Exactly what Frankie was just saying is that, we keep trying to play catch up when it comes to our recovery. And in reality, recovery is actually what produces the results. So because you can't just beat up your body day in and day out and expect, obviously things are going to happen for you, but it's going to be minimal compared to if you actually listen to your body when you're so beat up, you're sore, you're tired, you're maybe not sleeping as well, because we can have a whole conversation on sleep right now. But if you're not getting your 7 to 8 hours, all of it's basically kind of going to waste, right? So recovery, you got to pay attention. So like you said, 1 to 2 times a week. The thing about these high intensity workouts is you do feel good because you got a huge sweat compared to other workouts. Kick. You got that dopamine kick. It's like you feel great. So you keep searching for that. And then I think a lot of people's mindset when it comes to workouts that are mild to moderate intensity, you're like, oh, I think I could have pushed more.
I didn't do enough.
I didn't do enough. It's like maybe that wasn't the best workout, when in reality, that's exactly what your body needed today. And I think that the moral of this topic right now is understanding and really listening to where your body is at on the day of, right? Did I sleep enough? Did I only get 2 to 4 hours of sleep? Probably a high intensity workout's not going to be the case that day.
That was me yesterday.
Yeah, that was,
It was literally me yesterday. I went to the Laker game on Monday night, so sleep schedule, We'll do anything for the Lakers though, but my sleep schedule sucked. I only got like 2 hours and 30 minutes.
I got like 4 or 5
I had to
hours.
be here at the gym coaching. I got here at 4:30. I was here till 11. Not smart of me to go train, right? Picture it like this. A great example is, say you own a Tesla, or your body is a Tesla, right? Every night you need to charge that Tesla so you can get to where you want to go, right? But if you're only plugging it in, letting it get a little charge, and then trying to drive it long distance, what's going to happen? The car is going to stop, it's going to stall, right? That's your body right there. If you're literally running on low all the time, you have a high functioning job or high stress job, your sleep's crazy, you have kids, you have a family, you have all these different obligations, but yet you are trying to push it every single workout. You will crash, you will fail, right? Your scale, you won't see the results on the scale because your body's just constantly trying to recover, and you're just gonna crash and burn. And I've seen it, I've done it personally. You learn from your mistakes, and the purpose of this always is try to teach you from what we've learned from ourselves. I've pushed myself so much to the point where I've injured myself multiple times, multiple injuries, trying to show up, working out with other people, trying to lift too much because they were lifting a certain amount, trying to beat them at something, and then I'm injured and out 6 months, and then all of a sudden I'm back to square one, and that's a whole nother conversation too.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I mean, basketball is a big hobby of mine. It's a great, workout for a lot of people. I've done it my whole life, but in reality is, the other day I was trying to push a little too hard where I played back-to-back days. I know my body, I have a lot of ankle injuries. Back-to-back days like that doesn't do well for my body. So what ended up happening, I rolled my ankle, and thankfully I have no ligaments left in my ankle, so it's not as bad. But that's the case. Like, I'm pushing myself. That intensity felt good. More games, more pickup games on that session felt good for me, but the intensity was a little too high, and I didn't listen to my body. So same thing with you. Wherever you are in your fitness career, like wherever it is that you are, like in your journey, I think the moral of this is listen to where your body is, listen to, how much sleep that you got the night before, how rested you feel. Has it been a while since you had intensity training? Then maybe go for it, but then moderate to mild on the other days. Maybe focus on some strength training, maybe focus on some stretching, some yoga, whatever the case may be. And I think that's a good way to kind of have a long-lasting fitness journey, to be honest. And that's the goal. That's the goal. Fitness doesn't end, guys, but it's like you want to keep this up for as long as you can.
We want you to be the 80-year-old person in the gym, and people are asking you, like, what you do.
What's your secret?
All those things. And I think we just get in trouble nowadays with all the wearables. I'm wearing 2 different things, tracking my steps. This one's tracking my sleep, my HRV, all this thing. I have a heart rate monitor for when I work out. I'm literally strapped up to things all the time when I work out. We run into the issue. We see it with clients all the time. They look up at the board. Oh, I didn't burn X amount of calories. I need to go do this. I didn't get this many points when I worked out. I need to do this. And, I tell them from experience, it's okay. It's okay, right? There's times, go ahead, push it, I'm probably running into the thing when I don't push it enough sometimes because I pulled back, because I know what happens when I go push it too hard, right? Closing it up here, I think that everybody's different. It always is going to depend person by person. If you're newer, less is more always. If you're a veteran, you're a seasoned vet, you've been working out consistently for years after years, sometimes, same thing for you. You need to pull back a little bit as well too. But again, everybody's different. It depends. But I think for a majority of us out there, that again, less sometimes is more, and that you need to start mentally wrapping your head around and being comfortable with the fact that it doesn't always need to be hard. It doesn't always need to be intense. Sometimes just a little sweat, a little pump in the muscles is enough, and that's all you need. All right, moving on to the next one. What foods should people eat daily or all the time? What foods should people eat often? And what foods should people eat rarely? Ivan?
So this is pretty simple. It's a game of should you eat it, should you not, all right? So Frankie, you're on this new game show, all right? Should you or should you not?
Oh, no.
Okay. Food number 1, cake.
I want to, but no. Shouldn't eat it all the time.
All right. Next one, cookies.
I want to, but no.
All right, next one, broccoli.
I want to, and yes.
I mean, these are really extreme things, right? But here's the thing. At the end of the day, nutrition, yes, it is a complicated topic, but it shouldn't be, right? It should be in a very simple foundational, thought process as far as, vegetables, are they good for you? Yeah, I should probably have some more, and you should probably have some more on your plate, right? Proteins, if you do eat protein, okay? Sorry, vegetarians, like we're excluding you here a little bit, okay? But as far as like proteins, chicken, turkey, fish, some sort of meats, right? Like things of that nature. Should you eat some of that if you're trying to produce more muscle, lean out a little bit, lose weight? Probably, right? So with me personally, Frankie's a nutrition guy, but for me personally, I am very simple when it comes to my nutrition, when it comes to my plate. Okay, is half of my plate vegetables? Okay, is the other half, majority protein, and is the rest of it carbs? Yes, like check, check, check. Like that's how I know I'm having a good meal for myself, right? And I just want to kind of check those boxes out. Am I having very limited sugar? Yes, because I know, the consequences of that. Again, when you talk to me about nutrition, I'm very simple works. When you get to those more advanced strategies, when you're trying to hit like very specific goals, we talk to this guy, right? And then we go into more detailed, nutrition protocols. So thought process on this topic, Frankie.
You're the basic B of nutrition, all right? He's right. Nutrition the concepts of nutrition are very simple, right? Eat more vegetables, eat less sweets, drink less soda, drink more water. You want to lose weight, be in a calorie deficit. You want to gain weight, be in a calorie surplus. Concepts are easy, but it's hard because it's literally changing who you are, changing the way you were raised and things like that too. But I think the biggest mistake people make is trying to just cut everything out of their diet. That's why I wanted to talk about what food should you eat all the time, often, and rarely. I even did a post this morning about carbs and that not necessarily restricting carbs, but replacing them with better options, and that it's never restriction, it's replacement, that there's a time purpose for things. And I even had someone comment, oh no, it means I got to get rid of my bagel with eggs and things like that. And I said, no, that's literally not what I meant, right? Where would a bagel fall under? Something you have, some people it's going to be sometimes, some people it's going to be rarely. If you have a lot of weight to lose, it probably should be on the rarely. And rarely could be a handful of times a month, right? That doesn't mean never. So foods you should eat all the time are going to be vegetables, definitely like green leafy vegetables. Get some colorful vegetables in there. Protein, I believe, as long as you're okay with certain proteins, but I'm just going to throw proteins under an umbrella of things you should eat often. Some of the complex carbs like sweet potatoes, yams, even oatmeal. I think those are things that you eat often or on a daily, weekly basis. Avocados, again, eggs. And then some things that you should eat sometimes. And this is all up to debate with people, but for the most part, things that you should eat often. I would even go with like now certain things like protein pastas. I guess you'd put them on the border of often, rarely, if you know how to use those properly. Sandwiches, I think, honestly, when people try to say they cut out bread all the time, I'm like, why? Why? You should be able to have that stuff, sometimes. It shouldn't even be rarely. You should have it sometimes. Other things I would say that would fall under that category would be things like frozen foods sometimes like that. I'd say like bowls or things like that, like sometimes, and why I put that under sometimes and not rarely is because if you put it under rarely, you get more into the restrictive side of things, right? Now when we're talking about rarely, I'm talking about like sweets like cookies and candy and even sodas, Slurpees, anything like that, anything pretty much you can get at 7-Eleven, that's the stuff that you should be rarely, right? And again, rarely doesn't mean like once every 3-4 months. Rarely could be, 3 times a month you have it, right? Unless you have issues with it. So it always depends on the person, but we can give you some generalizations. And I think most people are going to benefit from adding the foods that you can eat often and daily versus trying to put everything else under a category sometimes, right? Again, you're going to do better if you eat more vegetables. You're going to do better if you eat, protein. You're going to do better if you eat less processed foods overall and eat more whole foods. Because what's going to happen is, just by adding in, if you're a person and all you did was add in 2 cups of vegetables per day, what you're going to do for yourself there is you're going to add those things, and it's going to keep you full longer. It's going to keep you satisfied. It's going to reduce cravings. So you're less likely to eat other foods throughout the day because you're going to notice, I'm fuller, right? So what happens when you're fuller? You're not hungry. What happens when you're not hungry? You don't eat because you're not hungry, meaning that you can start controlling your calories a little bit better, and that will lead you down the road of being a healthier version of you, a leaner version of you, and then from there we move on. It's like adding a little bit more protein on your plate, adding more vegetables on your plate, right? Did you hear what I keep saying? Adding, not reducing, not restricting, right? We're adding these foods into your diet because there's a purpose. Obviously, there's a ton of vitamins, there's a ton of nutrients, there's a ton of benefits of having vegetables in your diet. Nobody's gonna argue that, right? And instead of just restricting all the time, start adding those foods that we should eat often, and I guarantee you will start feeling better, you'll have less bloating, you'll eat less, and you'll see that scale move down as well too.
It's the thought process that our challenge is that, we can't take away the years and years and years that you've been, I don't want to say brainwashed, but it's what, social media, society has really, kind of jammed down our throats. Basically, it's, eat less, move more, right? So that's already telling you restrict any kind of foods that could potentially make you fat, right? And then work your ass off, which is what we just talked about, high intensity work. You're killing yourself and you're eating nothing. So that to me sounds like a recipe to disaster. And we know that's not really the case, right? You got to actually eat more food that has substance, more, nutrients, right? Like proteins, vegetables, high quality foods, exactly what Frankie was saying. Recovery, right? The intensity not being so high, right? So, at the end of the day, it's making sure that we are eating foods that we can eat most of the time, majority of the time, which, Frankie spoke about, and then not kind of like putting it in our brains that like we should never eat these foods, because that's the thought process that really kind of puts us into like a weird funk, right? Like where God, it kind of drives you nuts because it feels like a diet. It's restricting again. I should never have it, because then what do you do when someone tells you you should never have that? The first thing you want to do is give it to me, right? And that's not what we're trying to tell you. Is just to limit it, add it with something better for you, and then down the road, Saturday comes around, Sunday comes around, there's a time and a place for that. And it's just habit training. That's all it is, getting yourself to a point where you're doing more good than you are bad, because that is how you progress in your fitness journey.
Yeah, I would say in the end, like he was saying with everything, of eat less, move more, high intensity training, that's the stuff we should be sprinkling in to our overall foundation of health. The things that we should be pushing the majority of the time is walking more, just overall movement throughout the day, moving more than we sit. Resistance training, so that we're building muscle, because as we age, we lose muscle, we lose bone density. The only way to get that stuff is through resistance training. Eat more vegetables, eat less processed food, eat more whole foods, right? And then we sprinkle in the high intensity training. We sprinkle in a couple times when we're really trying to get to a goal where we pull back food a little bit more, or we sprinkle in the times when we have things like the bagels or the pastas or the desserts like that. We're restricting everything, and we're gonna go balls to the wall on our training program, and I'm gonna watch you run right into a wall. And for those of you listening and kind of shaking your head possibly, it's okay, I've been there too. We're not going to convince you all the time. We understand the benefits of it. Sometimes people just need to fail. Sometimes you're gonna fail. You need to fail, and then you'll come to realize, hey, let's try this way and let's see how things work, right? You've tried your way for X amount of time. Let's try a different way and see how it works. And then, typically what you'll see is that's how you'll start getting changes, when you change what's not working.
100%. I mean, you have nothing else to lose, right? Except for weight and more muscle and look better. So, I mean, there's more positives where, like, you kind of listen to a professional or you listen to a different route than the one that's, keeping you in that definition of insanity, right? Doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results, but that doesn't happen, right? So we want to just shed some light on this topic, making sure that you're doing it the correct way and in a sustainable way, so it's not restrictive, it doesn't feel too hard or anything like that, and it's just the appropriate way to go about this and have a successful fitness journey. All right, moving on to the next question. We are talking about glute training. Should you do strength training? What specifically should you do to grow your glutes? Frankie, what do you got for this?
You definitely should be strength training. Anytime you want to build any muscle, and let's just throw out, I don't want to be big, I want to lean out. When you say that, what you're really saying is you want to build muscle, right? Ladies, you don't have enough testosterone, and if you do see ladies that are pretty bulky and big, typically it's because, like with CrossFitters, a lot of times I hear, oh, their shoulders are really broad. Well, they do a lot of pushing and upper body work, bodybuilders. Some of those ladies do take testosterone, which helps them put on more muscle. For everybody watching this, though, none of you guys are taking testosterone. Well, maybe you are, but none of you are taking it on the level of where you're going to build muscle like a male would. So don't worry about that. So when you say I don't want to get bulky, or I just want to lean out, or I want to lean, that you're just saying you want to build muscle, and that's what we need to do. Is we need to build muscle, right? We do have muscle back there, but in order for your butt to get bigger, we need to resistance training, and we need to progressively overload, meaning that you're not just doing the same amount of sets, the same amount of reps every single week, right? Also, ladies with the bands that are constantly just doing band work, that is a great activation tool. It's a great recovery tool, but your priority should prioritize resistance training with it, right? So a prime example, just to give you a little template, you could go Monday, Wednesday, heavy, like a lift, a glute day for, lifting for your glutes on Monday and Wednesday, have that in there. And then on Friday, you could do a whole band workout. What you're gonna do there is you're gonna help speed up recovery because we're gonna get blood flow to the glutes. It's gonna recover faster. We're also gonna send a signal that, for our glutes to continue to grow, because the biggest mistake most people make is they want to grow a muscle, but they only work it out maybe once or twice a week. So say, example, if you only did it on Monday and then you did it on Wednesday, then you're not really sending that signal again for another 4 or 5 days, right? We want to send the signal, but we don't want to overstress the muscle, right? So that's where bands become useful. We've done 2 to 3 solid days of strength training and then 1 day of a lower intensity type of training just to get activation, just to get blood flow, to tell that muscle, hey, we want you to continue to grow too. So that's a little bit of my take. I'll pass it over to you as well.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing. Like, a lot of our clients that train with us personally, they see us probably on average 2 times a week. So we have to really figure out what is going to be the best way to execute glute training, glute size, like whatever it is that the client wants, right? So a lot of my ladies that I train, that is a goal of theirs. A goal of theirs is to kind of change the way that looks, maybe lift up their butt a little bit more. So I prioritize in their training template, it's like we're going to be doing a lot of hip thrusts, we're going to be doing a lot of banded work, and then on the days that they don't see me, like maybe on a Monday, Wednesday, on that Friday, exactly like what Frankie was saying, more band work just to put that signal out there that, hey, we're trying to get more blood flow, we're trying to get a little bit more size in there, whatever the case may be, knowing that your body is going to produce that, that kind of growth or whatever. And we're specifically just talking about glutes right now, but it's the same thing for all other body parts. But I mean, particularly that's why we like to do a lot of full body work. It's because we do send signals all over, right? Yes. I mean, maximal calorie burn, but same thing, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 days a week of strength training, of sending those same signals, doing different exercises. That's what produces that, that leanness, that muscle growth that we are looking for. So
I think one thing too, for most of you, you probably don't have like a bodybuilder split probably isn't great for most of you, in the sense that you don't have 6 days a week you're dedicating to the gym. Yeah. For some of you, you might only have 3 or 4, 3 solid days of exercise. So that's why we need to prioritize full body. But in that full body workout, we can still put an emphasis on your glutes, meaning that more of the exercises, right? Say you have 6 exercises exercises in your training program, 2 to 3 of those could be a glute dominant as well. And we're also going to get some other benefits in there as well, especially if we do RDLs. You're going to get some back involved in there. If we do squats, you're going to get some quads, you're going to get some glutes. So we can get more bang for your buck with certain exercises that we program in there too. So I think also for some of you out there that are training your glutes, or maybe you're like, I do lift weights. Maybe it's time to either increase the amount of weight you're lifting and go through a 3 to 4 week phase where you're trying to lift heavy for lower repetitions, anywhere from 1 to 5, right? And actually really push yourself and make sure that you're not always able to just do 10 reps all the time, right? And then for some of you, maybe you're lifting heavy a lot. Maybe it's time for you to back off a little bit. Maybe it's time for you to go less sets, higher repetition, really working on that pump, right? So, we always need to be changing because our body's always trying to adapt, right? And the goal is when our body adapts, we change the stimulus that we bring to it. So like I was saying, somebody who maybe you do 4 sets of 10 every single time you go to the gym, you're always lifting the same weights. Maybe it's time for you to do 6 sets of 2 to 4 reps on a lot of your exercises, right? Or maybe it's time for you to do 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps and really focus on form and the mind-muscle connection to the glutes too. So we constantly always need to be changing our training because our body's constantly trying to adapt to what we're throwing at it too.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest pieces of advice that we give a lot of our clients is, especially when you're in the earlier stages of strength training, is let's say on the board, on paper, whatever program that you're following, if it says 3 sets of 10, but the weight that you chose for that particular exercise, you're able to do 15, 20. For me, that's like a waste of a set, right? Because you didn't pick the optimal weight that could have given you the best result at that time, right? So if you maybe got a 10-pound weight to do squats with, but it called for 3 sets of 10 and you couldn't realistically do 20, you probably should have grabbed that 15 or 20-pound weight to do the squats with. So that's just something very small. It's all about the little details when it comes to your workout is, really picking it up. So where reps 8, 9, and 10 are like, they're a struggle, right? But that's how you recruit more muscle development into your body, like how you produce more of that, leanness and that muscle growth that we want for your body. So that's like a very little tip that I have for you as far as when it comes to strength training, specifically glutes, right? We want to go hard on it, and whatever it calls for on the reps, let's make sure that we get those 5 reps to the best, right?
I think another thing, like you were saying with the 10 reps, right, and that you can squeeze more out of it. The weight, so if something's set for like 10 reps, for example, what you should be thinking is get a weight that you could probably push out 2 more, but no more than that, right? So that it's still challenging you, because we don't also want to go maximal effort all the time where you're barely getting to 10 every single set and you're having to really push and reach for that. Set yourself up, right? So example, if I grabbed a 50-pound dumbbell for goblet squats and I can hit 10 and I'm like, I'd probably get like 2, maybe 3 more. That's how I know it's a good weight for me. But if I'm like, oh yeah, that was pretty easy, then I probably need to go up, right? And it's okay to go back down as well too, same type of thing. And keeping with the glute training, one thing I want to say, a couple movement patterns that we should always be incorporating, and we'll have videos eventually come out on all these, is the hip thrust. I think I love that one so much because it is a low barrier to entry, meaning that yes, there is some coaching that needs to happen, but it's a movement that we learn quickly versus the squat that is a little bit more technical. It takes some time to work. But hinging, or hip thrusting, any type of hinging, which is your deadlifts, your kettlebell swings, squatting, and that could be back squats, front squats. You should be messing with different variations of that. Some type of lunge as well. Reverse, I'm a big fan on reverse lunges, a little bit better and easier on the knees, but you can do reverse lunges, Bulgarian lunges, and then also I personally like to add single leg into my type of training, right? Pistol squats, again, Bulgarian lunge could fall under that as well, single leg box squats, things like that. So those are some movement patterns that you constantly want to be adding into your weekly routine in order to train your glutes effectively, right? So if all you're doing is ever squatting, then it's time to add in some other movements in there so that we can throw, again, different stimulus so that our body can adapt. And we want adaptation because adaptation means growth. Moving forward here, next question up, Ivan, HIIT training, right? We're in January. People are already stressing about getting that summer body right now, even though we're like 6 months away, 7 months away. But HIIT training, what are the benefits? What are some negatives? What are your thoughts on HIIT training, which is high intensity interval training?
I mean, just like any kind of training that's out there, there's a time and a place for it. We spoke about it a little bit earlier as far as the intensity, and when we did talk about that, that was a part of it. The HIIT training, cardio classes, things of that nature, that's where a lot of your intensity is going to come from, because there's a lot of moving happening in those high intensity interval training classes, right? Like there's a lot of station to station, there's a lot of jumping, there's a lot of like maybe sprinting, sled work, whatever the case may be. Personally, I really enjoy it. I think throughout my fitness journey and my own, I definitely had to cut that down because I did a lot of cardio more so than strength training, you know, and even though we came up in like a bodybuilding atmosphere, like I still, you know, I did a lot of basketball, I did a lot of like cardio work, like sprinting, but what I was really trying to see results at the end of the day, but I wasn't seeing them, and it's because now because of what I know now, I wasn't doing enough strength training. I wasn't recovering as much, and my routine lacked a lot of like that foundational strength that everyone, I believe, should have in their weekly routine. But I honestly really enjoy it still. Like even the classes that we have here at Faster Fitness, like the different kind of station to station work, the partner workouts, the hurricanes with sprinting in it, like all of that, I absolutely love it. It's good for a great sweat, and you get that dopamine and those endorphins in there, and it feels great. Like I absolutely love everything about it. There's high benefits of it. Obviously, like you burn lots of calories during that session, and again, time and a place for it. You know, Frankie, you can shed some more light on that.
Yeah, I definitely love. I love the HIIT training and high intensity. I love that feeling of pushing myself and things like that as well. Same thing, you know, went from bodybuilding, I've been through sports specific training, and then, you know, I always push far one way or the other, you know, and then I did a lot of high intensity training, and then it's like back into strength training, right? It's kind of finding that balance of it all. But I think some of the benefits of HIIT training, and I don't want people to think that I don't like encourage you to do high intensity training. I just think that there's a greater risk of injury during that time because you're jumping and things like that, and that some of you probably haven't worked out for years, and you're going to go take a class and you're going to go try to run on an air runner, you're going to go try to jump, you're going to try to do things like that. Not saying that you're going to get hurt, we're just increasing the chances of that as well. There's always a risk of getting injured in the gym. You know, I think with HIIT training, it is a great tool for the end of your dieting or when you're getting closer to a goal. For example, say by July you wanted to lose 20 pounds and we're at 15 pounds, or somewhere in June. I think that last month is a great time to add in HIIT training. Why? Because we can increase the amount of calories burned. No one's going to argue that you burn more calories in a HIIT session versus a strength training session. I think the difference, though, is that with strength training and resistance training, we get that EPOC effect, which is the exercise post-oxygen consumption, meaning that you can burn calories for up to 2 hours after a workout, right? But also, too, more of the benefits of HIIT training. I think it's a little bit easier for some people in the sense of they feel more comfortable than lifting weights. I think there's still a barrier, especially for a lot of women. They're afraid of weightlifting. They think that they don't like it just because they've been kind of been brainwashed to think that you shouldn't be weight training, right? But again, when it comes to terms of just strictly weight loss, I think the biggest mistake and the negative about HIIT training is that people just start with that right off the bat, right? When it comes to cardio, the research shows it takes about 7 to 10 days for your body to adapt, meaning that after 7 to 10 days of consistently doing, maybe you're doing like a class here, you're doing it at Orange Theory or F45, something like that, that your body will adapt, so that you need to push yourself a little bit more to get the same amount or the same effect that you did when you first started. Then your body's gonna keep adapting, and eventually you're gonna have to keep upping the bar to the point where you'll see sometimes people, oh, I did back-to-back classes, 3 classes in a row, right? That's not sustainable. That's not long-term. You're gonna burn yourself out, right? When it comes to resistance training, the research shows it's about 14 to 21 days for your body to adapt to that. But if you're doing it correctly with progressive overloading, changing your reps, changing the volumes and the amount of weight, you're constantly always changing the stimulus for that. When it's kind of hard sometimes with cardio, especially running. Running's a great example of it, right? Maybe you first start out running, you can only run a mile. And then all of a sudden, the second week, you run 2 miles, no problem. Then 3, and then all of a sudden, you're running 3-4 miles and you're not really feeling the same effects that you did when you first started. It's because you always have to keep upping the ante too. And so in strictly terms of fat loss, you're better off saving a lot of that HIIT training and a lot of those classes for the end of a fat loss cycle to get more calories burned at the end of it versus the beginning. The example I use is most of us have seen Fast and the Furious. You know how they have that NOS button? That's like you hitting the NOS button at the start of the race versus at the end to try to win that last little stretch too.
Yeah, and I always go back to when it comes to HIIT training and cardio stuff, I always think about the brand new person. I think about the person who finally built up the confidence to say, hey, I want to get started in my fitness journey, right? And they come in to do a cardio class and they feel super winded. And I go back to thinking about injury, right? So injury prevention. You don't have the foundational support that strength training would give you, right? As meaning that you're able to balance yourself a little bit more, you feel stronger, meaning that you're able to adapt in those cardio classes a little bit easier, rather than people doing it the opposite way. They come into cardio first and then they do strength. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I think that you're safer, right? Again, we're talking about injury prevention, by creating a foundation in your body where you have better motor control, you have more control over your balance, you build muscle, you feel good, and now it's now gonna up the ante a little bit when it comes to these cardio sessions. That like, all right, let's build it up right there, let's keep doing strength training. So you're just building habit over habit, and we just want you guys to have the healthiest progression when it comes to your fitness journey. And I think that's one tip that I have for beginners, especially, that you want to start off with foundation. You want to start off with strength training, just because I feel that that journey will be a little bit safer for you in the long run, and everything kind of comes into place after that.
And I think with strength training, we talk about strength training resistance training. Sometimes it's all strength training or resistance training is for the new person is building better movement quality.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean loading a bar up with as much weight as you can and seeing how much you can lift. Now for some of you in very beginning, it's let's get you squatting better. Let's get you actually hinging correctly. Let's get away some of that back pain, and so that your movement quality increases, right? But if you are someone, you're like, well, I can't afford personal training, or I can't afford to do that. I can only afford to go to a group class or something like that. Then for you, I think you need to go in with the expectation of not comparing yourself to everyone else in the class, because there's going to be people there that have been there a lot longer than you, that are going to move faster. You need to know that you do not need to keep up with everybody. I think the best advice is, and I think we do this really well here, is give you modifications, right? Hey, don't worry about keeping up or doing every single thing right now. I want you to just kind of go about 50, 60%, feel it out. If you feel tired, whatever, just stop, right? It's only your first class. We want to see you in here week after week, month after month, year after year. I think so for you specifically, who is starting out a group setting and you have no other option, then take it easy. Go 50, 60% of whatever you think. If you think you can push more, don't do it. Leave that in the tank so that you can come back for the next class. And I think we're constantly trying to do that with our group classes, is try to give you the best bang for your buck, in the sense of making sure that you're the safest possible when you do it too. So.
And I think this is a good way to segment into something that I feel everyone should always pay attention to and listen to and kind of internalize. It is when you're starting off in your fitness journey, whether if it's getting into these cardio classes, starting strength training, maybe starting with a trainer, going into a gym like this, there's a reoccurring theme that I personally always see. I know the coaches here, that everyone sees it. It's the brand new person coming in and comparing themselves to people that have been here for years, right? It's very easy for us to do that, because that's just how we are and how we're, just kind of wired as humans, to compare ourselves like, wow, those people are moving so fast. Like, I can't do any of that. This class is too advanced for me. And the case is that it's just hard to take yourself out of that and say to yourself like, hey, like, I just started today. this is my first day. And knowing that I could potentially, it's like you changing up the story in your head, like I can get there, it's gonna take me some time. Rather than like, oh, there's no way I can do that. That person's better than me. Or like, that's the wrong conversation that you're having in your head. You're comparing yourself to someone who has lots and lots and lots of experience ahead of you just because they started a little sooner. That's okay. You're getting started today. That's all that you need to focus on. You just need to focus on being the best that you can today and making sure that you come back the same the next time you come in. And like, I know you've seen a lot of that, with people comparing themselves to, whether if it's on the scale, whether if it's a performance in the gym, like any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that will cripple you really fast, really, really fast when you start comparing yourself. Is it healthy to like, oh man, I want to do what that person did? Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm super competitive all the time at a lot of things, but I don't for example, if Ivan deadlifted 500 and I only did 475, I'm not going to let that ruin my whole day or get so upset about it that it, affects me. In my head, I'm like, all right, I got some work to do to get better, right? And that's the message we want to promote, is getting better, right? For you, not for whoever else, but how can you get better today, right? And like, when you come into a class, it's not about everybody else. The honest truth is, a lot of times people just don't really care, in the sense of that when you're in your middle of your workout, you're not thinking like, you're not thinking, oh my God, look at that person over there. They can't even jump on that box. Like, that's the last thing anyone's working on. They're like, man, this workout's tough. I need to get through it. Or like, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z in here. I promise you, they're not comparing themselves to you. They're not looking at you. Your goal should be to progress, class by class, week by week, training session by training session, right? I think one of the best things that I've tried to adopt lately is, how do I get better each time I go in the gym, right? And the best advice is listening to your body. That's how I get better, if I listen to my body. In the past, I've overreached so many times trying to pull a certain number, trying to get a certain weight, see someone on Instagram, oh, this dude did 405, I could do it. And then boom, all of a sudden shot, I'm out 6-8 weeks, come back too early. Boom, I'm out again, because I didn't listen to my body and I didn't allow myself to progress the correct way. Now, I go in the gym, if I'm feeling really good and everything's going good for me, then I can progress a little bit more, right? Same thing when you come into the group classes, right? See how you feel. There's gonna be times you come in and you're just like, I feel amazing right now, and you push yourself and you have an amazing class and you're super stoked about it. But you can come back 2 days later and all of a sudden maybe you didn't get enough sleep, family things are going on, and you're like, I don't understand. I just did this on Tuesday and I can't even do the same thing. Listen to your body, right? Getting better is listening to your body and just you trying to get the best possible outcome each training session.
And to this day, and I know we talk about fitness, but a lot of this compares to life in general, right? And I think the biggest piece of advice that I've ever heard is, comparison is a thief of all joy. And the reason for me kind of internalizing that when I did hear it, it's because I was going through my own struggles in the business world, like in my professional career. And, I was comparing myself to other business owners that were appearing more successful than I was there, and that was crippling to me, because it really hindered me from being the happiest version of myself. And because I compared myself to other people, which Frankie said, it cripples you, and like it did with me. And my thing is, for everybody that I talk to, is don't let someone else's success or don't let someone else's version of doing things hinder from what you're trying to do, and let that be kind of taken away from the joy that you have in whatever it is that you're doing. So if we're talking about fitness, don't let other people's way of doing things, or however long they've been doing it, take away from why you got started in the first place, which is to better yourself and be the healthiest and happiest version of yourself. Like, nobody should matter when it comes to just your journey. That's why it's called your journey, right? So don't compare yourself to people. Like, I know this is a mindset, just like our muscles and our body, we got to work on them. We also have to work on our mindset. We got to work on just making sure that we have the best mentality when it comes to just thinking about us being a little selfish for once. Being selfish is not bad. It's just a matter of, we want to improve. Fitness, professional life, personal life, we want to improve as people. But other people they're doing the same thing. It's just like us kind of getting in our own minds and our own heads, comparing ourselves to other people's success. It's really hindering us from our own success. So that's my message as far as, you know, making sure that you just focus on you, you know, because we rarely do that on a daily basis.
Awesome. And with that, guys, thank you for tuning in to the Faster Fitness Show this week.